So, welcome to the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT, and I am Kameel Gaines. This is your first ever truck driving recruitment show. I'm Kameel Gaines, the CEO of Rig on Wheels, and this is Robert Pierson, the VP of recruitment at MVT. And this is your ultimate destination for your trucking news, hot jobs, any tips, and all the recruitment that you ever want.
Yeah. Excited to be here this week. Glad to be here in your office here in Houston. So excited about that, and got a lot to cover over the next hour or so. So let's jump right into it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because we've been doing some virtual for the last couple of weeks. Traveling everywhere. Last week you was in the airport in El Paso.
Yeah, the week before that I would have been in Guyana.
Okay.
And then next week I'll be out of the country again in Lithuania. So it's nice just to be here. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. Just being right here, but it's good to have you right here in Houston, though, for sure. So we're gonna talk about some industry news and everything, and do a different spin. So we went up in diesel. That came out almost 14 cents, 13.49 to be exact. And so, of course, it is that surge in prices is gonna affect the owner operators, and affect the budgets, and of course the shippers and everything. So that's putting a lag on everything we got going on right now. We're already in a horrible situation, I feel. I'm kind of like a Debbie Downer at the moment, or at least this week. So that's kind of affecting, but what's your spin on it?
So most people think companies are immune to this type of thing because as a company you get a fuel surcharge, but the important thing to remember is that's a lagging indicator. So as an example, when the fuel price comes out on Monday or Tuesday, when that fuel price comes out, well, it's gone up the 7 days previous to that. So that fuel surcharge that most carrier gets, by the time that comes out and they reset the fuel surcharge, they've been paying those increased rates. The advantage is when fuel goes down, you also get to make a little bit of money off that fuel surcharge as well. So the thing right now that you'll see as a driver is a lot of drivers, if your company seems real concerned all of a sudden about MPGs and your fuel economy, and they weren't talking to you about that previously, that'd probably be a big reason as to why. As an owner-operator, they feel it especially because a lot of times on the spot market, that rate just includes fuel already into that rate. And so if you're not making enough to begin with, and the current spot market right now is running anywhere between $1.60 to $1.80 in the world of dry van, that's just another hindrance to you making money as an independent contractor or a carrier that relies heavily on the spot market. The big thing right now that any carrier is going to focus on is MPGs, because it's the one cost that you can control. Most likely, without getting into geopolitics or anything overcomplicated, that rate's going to continue to go up over the next 4 to 5 weeks. So you're going to see carriers get very focused on their fuel economy.
Okay, so it's funny that you say that you can control it. Tell me who can control it.
Well, it starts with the driver. The driver definitely can control it. Good pre-planning. Your fuel economy goes to hell in a handbasket if you don't pre-plan accordingly. You got to know when you're going to accelerate, when you're going to decelerate. So when are you getting on and off the highway? So if you decide you want to be a driver and go on a sightseeing tour down I-70, and every 30 minutes you're getting off the road to see the world's largest ball of twine, your fuel economy is going to go to hell real quick. On the flip side of it, understanding, hey, you know what? If I can get a truck stop parking spot early in the day compared to later in the day, I'm not going to have to sit there doing circles around the parking lot because I'm going to find a space quicker. That saves you on fuel economy. Timing out when you drink water. As a driver, you want to stay well hydrated. Timing comes into that as well. You have to regulate the water that you take in over the course of the day so you're not taking a restroom break every 30 minutes. While staying hydrated in the heat, we want you to stay hydrated. Right. but you have to kind of figure out, maybe you don't down that 20-ounce bottle of water immediately. Maybe it's half the bottle right now, in an hour, the other half of the water. That sounds like small things, but over the course of the day, that adds up quickly with you having to
Absolutely.
stop. It is understanding traffic patterns. And so if you're able to lay out your pre-plan and avoid heavy traffic, so if I'm coming into Houston as an example here, I know from about 4 in the afternoon to 7 o'clock, there's no part of Houston I'm not going to get slowed down in. So if I can possibly come in earlier, or I can possibly come in later, it saves me money, and it saves fuel surcharge, saves me on fuel economy, and it saves me on my ability to make a delivery without having to sit and idle. So it's those things there from a driver behavioral standpoint. The other part of the equation on the carrier side is having equipment that gets good fuel economy to begin with. Not all trucks are created equal. It's why the age of the truck matters. If you have a truck that's 5 years old compared to a year old, those two trucks generally are going to get anywhere from 0.3 of a mile to 0.5 of a mile different on fuel economy, just because of the age and the wear and the tear. It comes down to the running lanes that you run. So we run very specific engineered lanes. Most of those lanes are worked out because it's less wear and tear on the truck, and it is better fuel economy on those lanes. Not all lanes are created equal, but a lot of them. If you're a regular route carrier where you go every which way to Sunday and go chasing the money, that may be a problem for you. So if you're running through the Eisenhower Tunnel in Colorado going up a pretty steep incline, or if you're on I-24 from Chattanooga to Nashville going up over Jasper, Tennessee, up in the pretty steep incline, that becomes very costly right now. And so you're going to get into a lot of those discussions. And so one of the things you should ask as a driver is, do I get to take advantage of savings on MPGs, which we'll get into the car giveaway at some point. I'm just kind of guaranteeing that. And then the big part of that is, do I get recognized for what I do as far as pre-planning? And you do on that end. We want our drivers to benefit from that. And again, if you have any questions when you're with MVT about, hey, how can I do better on fuel economy? We have experts that will literally have that conversation with you and get excited about having it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I always like to talk about the innovative trucks that MVT has, because I know that has a lot to do with your MPG and all of that. And so those are the ways that you will help a driver to control and things like that. Okay, so I get it a little bit more, because we always want to talk about what we can do to control it. Okay, so what are some absolute no's that you don't want a driver to do when it comes to gas, the fuel?
Speeding.
Okay.
It's hands down speeding, and we have the conversation on a daily basis with folks. We govern our trucks, and most carriers do at this point.
Absolutely.
Eventually, you'll see it regulated at the federal level, like they've done in Ontario and a couple of the provinces in Canada. I get it. We're in this mindset that miles equal dollars. It's been that way forever. Since my grandfather was driving in the 70s and 80s, the saying was miles equal dollars. And I get it. We pay MPGs, we pay miles, or we pay cents per mile, CPM. It does not work that way. You going 75, 80 miles an hour down the highway does not save you as much as you think that it does, and you absolutely blister yourself on fuel economy. And so I get it. You'll go to a truck stop, and I've heard every theory you can think of. My truck's sweet spot, 72 miles an hour. This truck is made to run at 80. It's not. Literally, it's 65 to 67. Yeah. And most of the time, you'll see companies, not just MVT, but when you see companies pre-plan out and figure out what rate or what speed you should be going on it as an average, most carriers are anywhere between 47 to 50 miles per hour when they take into account city driving versus highway driving. It varies from company to company depending on the niche that they serve in the industry. There is very little gained by going 70 plus miles an hour down the road. And with fuel at where it is right now, you literally are driving yourself to go broke. So as an example, if you're an owner-operator and you own one single truck on that road, a lot of owner-operators you see go broke in that first year. One of the things they don't manage very well is their fuel.
Absolutely.
And its speed is the number one cause of that.
Because one of the things you want to do as any small business owner is control your variables. So if you feel that one is a variable, which it can, quote unquote, but there are ways to control it. But something that I'm hearing you say, and it all works together. So speeding, not only is it going to hit you when it comes to diesel, which is profit, but then it also talks about safety.
Yep.
Safety hits you with profit, and it also hits you with retention, because a driver that speeds is a driver that we don't want.
Yep.
Because it's going to increase insurance. More likely you're going to have accidents, mess up profit, cargo or freight not going to get to where it needs
Yep.
to be, and then mess up the retention and driver turnover.
Speeding,
all is one.
Speeding is literally the cancer in our industry. Back
Yeah.
in 2020, as an industry, the industry average for insurance costs all shot up about 83% over the course of that
Yeah.
year. It was a big shocker. Progressive and a couple other carriers of insurance left our industry. The number one thing that they could cite, beyond massive lawsuits causing that, is speed-related issues. Speeding is literally right now, if I had to label one thing, it's probably the enemy of our industry right now, it's speeding.
Yeah, speeding. And like you said, just maybe us in this country, we feel like, like putting a pedal to the metal and things like that. But like statistically, that does not mean you're going to get there faster. The days are over where you have somebody that on a regular basis every week is doing 3,000 miles plus every week, every week. I don't even know the saying that I'm trying to say, because y'all know I mess up sayings. But that driver is no longer here.
Yep.
That driver is long gone, right? So, okay. Well, we definitely want to go to our first commercial break, and then we'll be back to recap last week. So I want to thanks for coming back, y'all. I want to kind of recap last week. Last week we harped a lot on retention, which is a big deal to me, because I want to retain the drivers at MVT as well as in this industry, because shoot, you don't have to take out a whole bunch of student loans to make a good, honest living for your family. And that's a huge thing after having all of these student loans. So that's a big stickler for me. But also how to help the carriers get better drivers, right? Because the carriers end up getting stuck with the whole notion drivers feel like we're the ones or the bad ones, and get the bad rap, and everybody talks about that, whether it's the regular media, social media, and it kind of pisses me off a little bit, probably a lot of it, especially this week. But so what is it that the drivers can do better to have a better relationship with the carrier? We talked about last week what the carrier could do better, but what can the driver do better to have a better relationship with you?
Yeah, it's all servicing the customer,
Okay.
especially in today's environment where it's extremely cutthroat going after new customers. The driver, beyond our sales team, beyond our recruiting team, beyond our operational team, the driver has the biggest impact on our ability to pick up new customers or unfortunately lose customers.
Mm-hmm.
That driver's understanding of how they fit into that dynamic becomes really important. And we're all guilty of it. We think of life as one load at a time, one day at a time. As a driver, your value proposition to a carrier is you can rely on me. When it's time to leave the house, I'm ready to go. When it's time to get to the customer, I'm ready to go. When I need to explain to the customer why something happened a certain way, I'm ready to go. The driver is more than just a driver. At a carrier, that driver is your customer service rep, your PR team. They wear many, many hats beyond just holding the steering wheel. And I can't emphasize that enough, as that is the value proposition of a driver. It's why I don't worry about computerized trucks or AI trucks or any of that type of stuff. That is multiple decades down the road. The value proposition of the driver is not the person sitting there going down the road in a straight line. The value proposition of the driver is I'm the subject matter expert. I'm going to make sure that the customer's happy. I'm going to make sure that operations know what's going on. I'm going to communicate about weather. I'm going to communicate about truck issues. And when all else fails, you can depend on me. That proposition of a good driver is invaluable. And if you have that fleet of good drivers, you as a trucking company, you have good days and bad days, but you're going to end up winning every time. 9 times out of 10, you're going to win against your competitors. That's what separates companies. It's the driver.
It's the driver, yeah, because everybody has a bad day, but overall, it's during that bad day, your real personality or your character comes out when you are having a bad day,
Yep.
a bad week, or however. So we know the customer service. So let's talk about, we always like to talk about testimonies. So what's the opposite of a testimony? Whatever that opposite. I'm having a real Virgo week this week. So what's the opposite of a testimony? That's what we want to talk about.
Probably going silent, but I don't think that's what you're going
Yeah,
for.
that's not going
No.
for it. So we had a driver, right? Went to orientation, everything checked out, and then we find out that they not only quit the last company, which is fine. You want to quit if you're not happy, all this good stuff, but you want to quit in a proper way,
Yeah.
right? So not only did you abandon the load, but you had the nerve to abandon it with freight on your back.
Yep.
Why do we think that that's okay?
As an industry, look, if you are a professional driver, you are highly sought after, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
And as an industry, there's bad drivers that find good jobs. And so, it's that saying of why do good things happen to bad people and why do bad things happen to good people?
Mhm.
It's that sort of thing here
Like the
where
song.
there's not going to be any karma.
Mhm.
And so there's no consequences to it. This year is a year of consequences, both for drivers as well as for carriers.
Right.
And so as an example, if I previously abandoned a truck, there's probably a carrier that goes, something happened. I'll go ahead and bring you on anyways.
Mhm.
That's less likely to happen right now because the industry is doing that reset.
Yeah.
Just like a carrier that maybe mistreated drivers and constantly had 100+% turnover rate, probably got away with it. In a couple of years from now, as freight market picks up again, they won't get away with it, and their comeuppance will take place. So the key thing is when you go into that transition, you've determined, I need to leave the carrier I'm currently at. I need to transition to something else. How you make that transition matters now more than ever. So as an example, it's not as simple as, the hell with you, I'm getting out of the truck and I'm going on to the next place. What we're seeing right now is more carriers aren't having mass layoffs, but carriers are going, you know what, you've been an issue here. You've had 3 tickets for this, or you've had a cell phone where we caught you had a cell phone in your hands, or you didn't wear your seatbelt. We're going to go ahead and pull the plug on you. So that's happening more often now. We see it where about a third of the people that applied to us got laid off someplace or fired or let go, or they did not voluntarily quit. That's abnormally high. We do not normally see those kind of numbers. The other part that we have to look at, though, is in a market where we have to take better care of our customers than ever before.
Yeah.
So when you get that driver that left their present company, not only left their present company, not only abandoned the truck, but also left that load's going to have to be repowered and that load's going to be late. As a carrier, that's not a good hire for us. That puts that customer base that we have now at risk because someone's shown the propensity that, hey, I'm willing to leave that load there and the hell with the customer that you have. Not a good thing. If I leave for a job, I have to worry about the same consequences of that. I don't want to go out and have a Jerry Springer type situation in the office and all of a sudden break one of the computers as I walk out the door.
Right.
There'll be consequences to that. That gets into a bigger, that kind of life. But it's one of the things to think as a driver. You've made the decision mentally, I'm checking out here, I'm going on to the next carrier. How do I want that transition to look? You don't want to burn that bridge.
No.
I technically, even if you have no intentions of going back to XYZ trucking, I want them to view me as eligible for rehire. I want that luxury that if I left, they'd be likely to take me back. It puts you as a driver in a much better position of negotiating your next job. And it's gonna give you an extra avenue, because when you go to that next carrier, if you don't like that next carrier, knowing that you can go back to where you were before puts you in a much better position just as an individual.
And then not just that, and I know this is with any industry, but what they have, we in the truck industry, it's very small. So that same person that you see at this company is going to be your boss at the next company in another couple of months.
Yep.
Because either they're going to switch jobs or the company is going to merge or get bought out. Things happen all the time, so you want to make sure that you are like literally not burning bridges. So I'm not necessarily saying that you got to do the 2-week notice, but you definitely don't want to quit with freight on your back.
Yep.
Like, don't purposely try to screw the company. You are a one person. That never works out.
Yep.
And if it did work out a couple of years ago, that is not the era right now. Deal with professionalism and move with professionalism, so us as recruiters can really help you out, because that's what we're seeing is more difficulty, and that's why you hear so much passion, more difficulty because you're not moving. We're starting to see drivers that really are quality, but they haven't been moving with enough professionalism. So carriers are scared because they don't want to lose their shipper.
Yep.
You know, they're not going to lose their shipper because of that, because the driver is the frontline player.
Look, right now, given where the spot market is there's a difference of about 40 cents a mile right now between having a shipper with a contracted rate and what the spot market's offering. Additionally, that shipper has a lot more drop and hook opportunities.
Right. Okay.
Where when you do a spot market or a broker load, 99% of the time, that's a live load. You're going to be stuck to that trailer as they're unloading. You don't want to have that. That direct shipper relationship has value to you, to the company, and to your fellow drivers. So in that case of that driver that you're describing, he's not screwing over just the carrier or just the shipper. He's screwing over the other drivers on that fleet that are going to have the financial ramifications of that customer potentially leaving. And so it gets into that is don't be that dude.
Yeah.
Like,
let's be a team player.
Yeah. And so the question comes, I can think of a time in my past as an example where I had a split seat operation, and they started in Dallas, and they'd go to Denver, and they'd go to another place, and they'd come back to Dallas, and one of the guys quit and abandoned his truck someplace on that run that was not Dallas. He didn't screw himself over. He screwed the next guy over that's waiting for him to come back. And so one of the things, just in life, you want to think about, how does this impact other people? It's a good thing to ask. If you can't do that, you're going to struggle getting married, let alone keeping a trucking job.
Yeah. Just in life in general. So I agree with that. Well, when we come back, we're definitely going to go over just life on the highway, and how to stay healthy and good tips doing that. So our next commercial.
My name is Stacy Morton, and my position is OTR driver, and I've been with the company for 8 months. I enjoy being with part of the family because good miles, nice people, they listen to the drivers. The pay is excellent here at MVT. The home time is very good. You get to go home anytime you want. The dispatchers are really nice. They listen to the drivers, whatever you want. They will do their best to give you what you need. And the equipment is good, and safety is excellent. Yeah, they're fast, and the roadside is good. They listen to you, and they get the job fixed in a timely manner. Yeah, I would recommend other drivers to come to MVT because this is a good place to work, and you get excellent home time and everything that you need here.
Thanks for coming back, y'all. So what we want to go over and talk, you know what? Because we run out of time all the time for questions and stuff like that. I want Kayla to read off a couple of the questions that I think came from the Facebook.
Hey, Camille, yes, that's right. So the first question I have is, how do you make sure that onboarding is a good and positive experience for new drivers and then integrate them into company culture?
Well, I think one of the things I can jump in because I say this about MVT all the time, and we talk about it in our meetings. And then I'll let Pearson. But one of the things that is different from all of the companies that we recruit for is they do round robin where the recruiters actually go to the orientations and speak with the drivers. So they actually see an internal recruiter and they're actually able to ask questions and things like that. So it gives more of a smaller feel, and we get a lot of positive feedback from that. So I can just talk third party with that because we recruit for 50 different companies. So
We also over communicate. And what I mean by that is I'd much rather be accused of over communicating with somebody than under communicating. So, as an example, when that driver is brought on and they become part of the team, that's not the last time they deal with that recruiter. They deal with the recruiter 2 weeks after the fact, 30 days after the fact, 60 days after the fact. We have a third party that we use that communicates as well as kind of doing a checkup of, hey, how's MVT treating you? And we look at the surveys and specific scenarios where we can fix the situation. That fleet manager wants to know about you, wants to know what dates are important to you. If you have a kid that has a birthday, as an example, chances are you're going to want to be home for that birthday. If you have an event that you go to every single year, it could be a family reunion. We're going to sit down and we kind of want to map out the next 12 months. What's important to you? What matters to you? We want to map out your career beyond that. You may fill a specific division at this moment, but that may not be your career goal. You may want to become a trainer, an owner operator. You may want to get into an office position. So one of the things that we do in that first 90 days is we're going to have a conversation with you about what does it look like with you at MVT a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. That discussion we find doesn't happen at a lot of carriers because they're either assuming that you're going to leave before then, or they're assuming, no, you're taking care of a problem now. You're a driver in this division, this specific role, but that's not what your end goal should be. You should have bigger aspirations than that, and we want to know about that because we could probably work towards those goals together. You're going to find that the first 90 days employment goes a lot easier for you if you're thinking well beyond the 90 days.
like that. Kayla, did you have one that was connected to that, or did you want to go right into our health segment?
I do have another one that is connected to that. So
Okay.
it's really about driver retention. Can you provide any insights into your retention rates? What are you guys doing to make sure that drivers stay engaged, both for MBT as well as RIG?
Yeah, so generally we're around 68%. That is a trend that is going down, and the goal is to get it below that this year, below 60%. The key to that, though, gets in the first step on that's hiring. So if I'm hiring for a specific division, I want to make sure I'm hiring where you actually have work available to you. So let's say I have a division that's slow or that the freight doesn't align with the number of drivers that I have. Just because I have an open truck does not mean I want to hire for that division. That's setting somebody up for failure. A lot of carriers, if you got 200 trucks sitting on the fence, they want to get those trucks filled, and I get it. That's an expensive proposition of having a $170,000 to $200,000 truck on the fence. With that said, if the freight doesn't align with that, you're going to have trouble as soon as you get over there through no fault of your own. So I'm hiring specifically for divisions or jobs that I have actual freight to match up to those to give you the opportunity at success. The second part of that is making sure that you're a fit for that job and talking with you about it and making sure that you agree to the job. Not that it just sounds good. I want to talk to you about the stuff that's difficult about the job, along with the things that are a value proposition for you. And then ultimately, as you get into that role, it's talking about it. When we go through a bad day, understanding why it's a bad day for you, why it's a bad day for us, and problem solving on the fly. If we do those three things, that turnover rate tends to follow a trend downwards. That we've made some significant improvements on that over the last 3 years, and will continue over the next 3 years.
And we want to continue to be a resource, not just with recruitment. So definitely when it comes to health and life on the road, recruitment as well, but your career development. So you might have a driver that wants to start out in drive-in, but knows that he wants to go into flatbed. So what does that look like? Or wants to go into tanker. What does that look like? Get him and help him get to those areas. So we do a lot of that, and definitely put you on that ladder of a goal, and that's what we call it, a ladder, so you can get to whatever your goal is or your family's goal is for you.
I'd also point out on our end, we want to invest in you. We invest in your driving abilities with systems like the Smith system, which is going to teach you how to preventatively drive. We have 20-year vets that take the program that get real value out of it. An added benefit, it helps you on your own personal car insurance, by the way. We invest in a program called Rolling Strong, and we do that because we want to invest in your mental and physical health while you're on the road. We invest in you by making sure that you have resources available to you. So instead of having you necessarily going to a truck stop, our facilities are set up with the driver in mind. We have laundry facilities, fueling facilities, shower facilities, driver lounges. It's investing in the fact that you feel like you belong someplace, that you have resources, you have people who will help you out. And when you are away from home, you have a home away from home.
And we're going to be starting out the challenge of health and dietary stuff. So I want to start kicking it off and talk about $100 gift card that we're giving away for groceries. But you got to remember what Pierson said, and it's just a trivia, and it was just so slight of where he said he's going to be next week for our podcast show next week. So if a driver can either call us, text us, email us, however you get the information to us, the first person that does get it over to us gets the $100 gift card. And we'll get that kicked off, and then bring on another trucker to really talk about that. Delmon will be back next week. He's on vacation, but he'll be back to go over a lot of things as far as staying healthy on the road. He's been in trucking since before forever. But yeah, so 281-968-3100. If you can text me and let me know where Pierson said he's going to be next week when we are doing the virtual podcast. I'll be sitting here, but he'll be somewhere else. So if you let me know, then you'll get the $100 gift card. Okay, so let's kind of dive into that. I know we're talking about groceries and all that good stuff, and I wanted to talk about that because I hate the drive. I know sometimes we want to pull up to a McDonald's, or you got to run into a truck stop, but because I'm on my own weight loss journey and everything, you don't want to always do that, and we don't want the drivers to do that, as well. So what are some of the things that MVT does that help the drivers stay healthy?
One of the things that drivers will point to in our trucks that's probably the best health benefit is the fact that it's already set up with, you don't have to bring a power inverter, already set up with plugs. So if you want to bring a refrigerator, if you want to bring a microwave, you can do those things. We're not an OTR fleet. We're not running, 48 states, 2-3 weeks at a time.
Right.
We're much more regional and specific lanes that we run, engineered lanes as we call it. The fact that we have that in the truck's value, because if you can bring food with you, you're much more likely to pre-plan what you're going to eat out over the next 3 days, and you can eat it healthier. When you get in a hurry and you're like, all right, my option is, XYZ grilled burgers and milkshakes, you're going to have some difficulty staying healthy on the road. It is hard to be in a job like a truck driver and then down a 2,000 calorie meal. It's not a good option for you. And so your ability to make food in the cab becomes really, really important. The second part of that is staying active. And we work closely with a company called Rolling Strong with us. Other carriers have other companies that do similar programs. And it gets into how you can exercise on the road, how you can stay active on the road. And if all else fails, when you go on your 10-hour break, it's the littlest thing, but taking a 30-minute walk has a lot of value. Even if it's where the scenery is, you're just looking at the back of trailers. That 30-minute walk can be a big thing compared to getting out of the truck, going back in sleeper berth and crashing. Staying active, and we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to do so. It's why we stick to the hours of service. It's why we set up that you have resources available to you to get additional exercises beyond that. stay active, get out, do something beyond just sitting. It makes a big difference, and it will help you 20 years down the road as a truck driver.
Awesome. So we're gonna go to a commercial, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about two of my favorite divisions. So two hot jobs. So we just gonna 2 and 2. Okay, I might be aging myself. You know what I'm talking about?
I
when
do
say
actually,
2 and
which
2.
yeah,
Okay,
me too.
we'll be right back. Yes, sorry about that, guys. Kind of just lost power at the main location. But we are back. We are back. Thanks for sticking in here with us. So we're gonna jump right into our Texas division
Yep.
since we right here in Houston, Texas. Let's talk about it.
Oh, if you tell your recruiter that you're talking to with Rig on Wheels that you want Division 329, they'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Looking for folks that live out of Houston, the DFW area, Laredo, San Antonio. Going to run a lot of Eastern Texas, Southern Oklahoma a little bit, but you're never going to be too far from home. You're generally out about 5 to 6 days at a time. Going to see good paychecks, steady paychecks, generally anywhere between $1,400, $1,500 a week. You're going to see a lot of back and forth. So you'll see a lot of I-35, I-45. You're not having to do any mountain driving. You're not having to go out where you're going to be getting in major blizzards because you're not going that far north. It's a popular division for us. We generally have probably 10 to 12 people a week at this point joining us on Division 329, constantly looking to grow that. Really good long-term customers like Lowe's, Starbucks, Home Depot, a few others in there. So you're going to get a chance to go to established customers for us that know our trucks, know our drivers on a first-name basis, which is kind of unique. You know, most carriers emphasize the fleet manager knowing their drivers by name. We like to push a little harder than that. We kind of like the customers to know you by name. And so when you see the same customer over and over again, that's allowed to happen here. 329 is very popular. Looking for some folks, again, out of Houston, the DFW area, San Antonio, Laredo. Always take folks in those markets any day of the week.
Well, DeAnthony, you was asking a question earlier about 329. You better call Josue back because Pierson just told you exactly what it is. So one of the clients that you would be serving is Starbucks, and that's your favorite drink.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, we have a division that we refer to as Division 430. It's the best running lane that you're going to get out of Jacksonville while still going over the road. And so what we do is you're going to be out. Generally, it's going to take you about 5 days to do the run. You're going to leave Jacksonville. You're going to head due west to Houston. You're going to hit Laredo and then start the process right back to Jacksonville. So you're on I-10 the vast majority, 90% of that trip's I-10 the entire way. The advantage of it in Jacksonville, and if you've been a driver for more than 3 years in Jacksonville, you've had recruiters trying to pitch you. Going up I-95 to the northeast, or going up 75 to where you end up having to go through Atlanta and the traffic that goes around 285, which if you're not used to it, you don't want to deal with 285.
Yeah.
The nice thing here is you're never going to have to worry about that with Division 430. You're literally going to stick to I-10. I-10, for those of you that don't have a map in front of you, not been on it, outside of a rare hurricane one every 10 years, that's really the only traffic or the only weather issues you're going to deal with on that lane. So you have an attractive thing there. We do Lowe's is the biggest customer on Division 430. About 60% of the freight you run is going to be Lowe's. We have some other customers on that as well. 430 is very nice. You're going to be around $1,200 to $1,400 a week on that. Specifically hiring specifically out of Jacksonville, we have approximately 70 to 80 drivers that do Division 430. If we could get that up to 100, that's kind of the sweet spot for us to match up with the freight that we have.
Sounds perfect. Going back to Houston, you remember what the pay is with that one? I don't think you said it.
For 329, they're generally going to be around $1,400, $1,500 a week.
Okay. So, DeAnthony, you heard it from the man himself. Don't ask me no questions. You heard it. Just call Josue back because he is ready for you to call him back. Okay, good. Now, let's go ahead and we can actually, Kayla.
Yes,
Why
ma'am.
don't we do that last question? I think that would be good.
Yes. So the last question I have is, can you share key qualities and skills that you're looking for when you are recruiting?
Yeah, so in a professional driver over the road, and I use that term professional being the biggest part of that, taking pride in what you do and being a professional becomes really important. There's a lot of people that hold a CDL that are not going to get in one of our trucks. The people that are in our trucks are generally people that are safety minded, they're conscious, they have a stable and safe work history. They're individuals that are detailed, that attention to detail becomes really important on that end. And most importantly, and above all else, is they have that professional moniker on it. If you're somebody that is in a hurry to just go as fast down the road as you possibly can, if you view an accident as not really a big deal, you're going to find a lot of carriers probably don't want you, but definitely MVT. If you're hired on to MVT, you should view yourself as a bit of an echelon above your fellow drivers. We have absolutely zero categories above threshold when we look at our CSA scores. Our drivers can easily come into our offices, ask to see our CSA scores, and we're an open book and we'll share them with you. We share it with our customers and they definitely look at it. So again, being safe, being dependable, being reliable, and having a strong attention to detail is going to help you be a professional at MVT.
And then
I'm so sorry, I do have some addition to that.
Okay, what's the addition?
Someone just sent this in as well. Are you able to identify drivers that are more like Tom Brady and less like Johnny Manziel?
Yeah. So we do that a few ways. We look at their previous work history. So as an example, if you abandon your truck and your trailer and your load, you're most likely to, Manziel, you'll deliver a load and be doing this a little bit there after you scored one victory. Which, by the way, that's a good 30 for 30. You should watch it. Tom Brady is somebody that is, generally speaking, this isn't their first rodeo. They may be newer to the industry, but they're going to have a stable work history before they actually even got into trucking, if they have a work history. They are going to have fewer tickets, fewer accidents. Most importantly, from a communication standpoint, they're going to share with you what they want. And that's the biggest thing. We want to have a very open discussion with you. Even if I don't hire you and we determine that we're not a good fit for each other, we want to have that discussion where you say, hey, this is what I'm after. This is what's important to me. This is beyond just where I live. I want to know what you're looking for. And the nice thing when you work with Rig on Wheels is if you're not a fit for MVT, but you have a safe and stable work history, they may be able to find a fit for you someplace else that's not MVT. I'd hate to think of that being the case, but it probably is. And so the big thing is being able to communicate what's important to you, because then we can align you with the best opportunity for success.
And Pierson just threw the ball over to me, no pun intended, for real. Like, so it's saying that because we can represent more than one company, the biggest thing is not making sure that you're a driver that is easy to deal with. So communicating, telling us the truth, letting us know what's going on, answering the phone when able, responding back to whether it's any communication, whether it's the emails, the text messages, letting us know what company you want to go to, what company you don't want to go to, because we will, submit you to several companies of your choosing. So letting us know who your 1, 2, and 3 companies are, so we can communicate that better with them, communicate it better with you. Be professional so it could be reciprocated back. If it doesn't, for an example, just giving a great scenario, if it doesn't work out with MVT, but you are hard to deal with, and we have a perfect company that will be ideal for you, but you were hard to deal with, why the HE double hockey sticks would I present, why would Rachel, Raven, any of the recruiters, why would they present you to that other company? Because at the end of the day, like Pierson said, we are 100% in the service business right now. It is no malarkey out here. Everybody is in the service business. So make the biggest thing for us is having a driver that makes doing easy to do business with.
Yep.
That's it.
We're
right
in the
there.
relationship business here.
Yes.
Just be it a driver, be it a fleet manager, be it anybody that has face-to-face or phone interaction with anybody else. We have to get along. We cannot be oil and water. And just like we talked about today with the driver's end of the spectrum, we do the same thing with our fleet managers.
Absolutely.
Our fleet managers have to have strong communication skills and be able to communicate with a wide array of people. We don't really have a stereotypical driver. We don't have a stereotypical fleet manager. But those two people being able to work together and correspond with each other to ultimately get the job done becomes very pivotal in today's industry.
Absolutely. Relationships matter. That's the biggest word. Last week it was retention. This week is relationships matter. So what I want to do is go to commercial, but I want to, of course, talk about the car giveaway. So like what we do for the drivers that are good with fuel, right? Yep. Okay. So let's do that, Kayla. Let's show the commercial with that handsome guy.
Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez. Tengo trabajando 3 años aproximadamente y somos B1 y andamos en territorio de Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta de MVT es que tiene buenos viajes, buenos camiones y muy buenas millas. Mi comunicación con el despacho es muy buena y todo eso, y siempre están a la orden del día. ¿Qué pienso del equipo de los camiones? Pues que están muy bien y les dan sus mantenimientos, sus PO y todo lo demás, alineación y balanceo, todo, cambio de llantas y excelente servicio. La compañía cada trimestre regala un auto para los operadores. Me motiva pues a crecer más como persona y pues, para dar el 100, como dicen, para la compañía.
Hello, we're back. You caught us. I was like, how? Thanks for being back. So we want Pierson to go over everything with the car giveaway.
Absolutely. Let's do it to it. Car giveaway is one of the things that separates us from a lot of our peers. And like I said, we are very serious about miles per gallon. We average about 9.5 miles per gallon in an industry that consistently averages about 6.5. The biggest reason that we do that, it really comes down to our drivers. Our drivers, those behavioral habits on the road make the biggest difference in on that, and we recognize that by giving a car away every single quarter. So as an example, if you had the best fuel economy over the course of a quarter, we call you up and we get to go, hey, come on into the office here and you're not in trouble. You end up coming into the office and we have a car waiting for you. Generally, it's a 2022 or 2023 Nissan. Sonata is normally the one that we go with, depending on what's available. But it's going to be nice. You're going to like it. It's going to have very few miles on it. It is a brand new spanking car. And so you'll come in and do that. And then if you win it for the year, you get $25,000. That's 25000. So $25,000 on that. And so it's kind of unique for our industry. Nobody's really doing that at this moment that I know of. And we recognize that. If you come in, though, and you're not in that leaderboard, we'll work with you to get there. And it becomes our goal, basically, to put you in the running for that. So if you look, 2 out of the last 3 people that won it were not in the top 10 the previous year. So just because you start somewhere in the middle doesn't mean that you can't get there. And so that's a big thing on that end is don't assume that you're ineligible for it because you weren't good at it this year or you're somewhere middle of the pack. 2 out of the last 3 people that got it we're not in the top half at the year previous.
So basically, you got coached up to be able to win it. It doesn't matter what the car is. I mean, your spouse is happy that you want a car.
Oh yeah, so absolutely.
You wouldn't be. That'd be bragging rights. I'll be at the local pig.
Oh, trust me.
Talking about it.
The day I show up at home, going, "Hey, look what I got at work," my wife's going to be very happy with me.
Yeah, it's probably a lot better than the gold watch.
Yep.
Let me tell you about that one. Okay, well, y'all know what? Definitely, if you're looking for a job, period, but especially if you're looking for that Houston to Jacksonville or that Texas run, give us a call at 281-968-3100, or of course, you can text that number 281-968-3100, or you can go to rigonwheels.com. And we'll definitely get you squared away so we can get your MVT application filled out. And we'll see you next week. Remember, whomever knows where Pierson is going to be next week doing the podcast is going to be the one that wins that $100 gift card. See you next week on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central Standard. Bye-bye.